It all started with my mother. Everything positive in my life generally does. For her 60th birthday, I wanted to do something more than just a meal and cake. My mother, Sarah Evans, is the type of person who spends her life taking care of others and never expects anything in return. She is the rock, the consistent sun in our family's turbulent orbit. So 60 merited a monument, or at least the best that a 30-year-old graphic designer in Austin, Texas could buy. It needed to be perfect. I am Liam Evans, by the way. And if you asked someone who knows me, they'd probably say something like responsible, methodical, or even little tight with money. I'm not a fighter, I'm a planner. I believe in spreadsheets, straightforward communication, and mature conflict resolution. Every day of the week, I'd rather receive a well-reasoned email than a shouting battle. That is exactly who I am, or who I was. For 3 months, I worked part-time on the planning of Mom's party. I spent hours browsing venue websites, comparing pricing, and reading reviews. My sister, Clue, believed I was overreacting. Liam, this is Mom. She'd be content with a backyard barbecue. She'd stated over the phone one night, her own children making a symphony of turmoil in the background. A barbecue is what she expects. I responded, my gaze fixed on a virtual tour of a sterile-looking hotel ballroom. I want to give her something that will make her feel like a queen for the night. She deserves to be the center of attention for once. Close sighed, which I knew meant she was smiling. Okay, parties are. Just don't spend your life savings. That was the thing. I am careful with my money because I have to be. I work hard for every dollar. Freelance graphic design is hard work. Some months are fantastic, while others are a roller coaster trip of chasing invoices. As a result, every large expense is a planned decision. My sense of fairness, my hard-earned money, and my family are the foundations of my world. Then I found it. The Gilded Lily Loft. It was ideal. It was located in the trendy South Congress neighborhood and had exposed brick walls, large industrial windows, and string lights hung from the ceiling. The entire rustic chic atmosphere that was popular on Pinterest. The reviews were fantastic. 49 stars. What a stunning venue. One person said, Caroline, our host, was really helpful and accommodating, remarked another. It was a little out of my price range, but Mom thought it was worthwhile. I scheduled it. Caroline Vance, the owner, was charming and professional in her communications. Her profile image showed a woman in her late 40s with a crisp blonde haircut and a smile that seemed tailor-made for 5-star evaluations. She swiftly addressed all of my inquiries, provided me a standard contract, and processed my deposit. Everything ran smoothly. Everything was perfect. The weeks leading up to the party were a whirl of festive preparations. Clue and I went into full planning mode. We went through old photo albums and scanned photos of Mom from each decade of her life to make a slideshow. We sat on my living room floor, laughing until our sides hurt at photos of her with a perm in the 1980s and us as gap-toothed kids with bad haircuts. We talked about family trips, the fragrance of her baking on Sunday mornings, and how she could always make everything better with a simple hug. We were constructing more than just a celebration. We were creating a memorial, a fortress of love and shared memories. This gathering was more than simply a day on the calendar. It was a physical expression of our thanks. The night of the party was pure magic. The loft appeared much better in person. Friends and family flew in from all over. My mother walked in, her eyes wide, and watched everyone exclaim, "Surprise!" She just stood there, hands over her lips, tears flowing down her cheeks. Happy tears, the kind of tears that take 3 months to see. The entire evening was a highlight reel. My uncle delivered a wonderful, rambling toast. My cousins, who hadn't seen one another in years, bonded near the bar. Clue and I played the slideshow, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house as 60 years of a fulfilling life raced across the screen. My mother kept grasping my hand and whispering, "Thank you, honey. This is the best night of my life." Mission completed. The contract was clear. We had to depart by midnight and leave the apartment, broom clean. So, As the final visitors stumbled out into the balmy Texas night, Clue and I set to work. We were not only responsible, we were also considerate. We disassembled the rented tables, piled the chairs against the wall, and swept the entire floor. We collected every bottle, errant napkin, every falling crumb of cake. We piled all of the rubbish into the large industrial bins out back, exactly as the contract required. When we finished, the place was pristine, perhaps even cleaner than when we arrived. With pride, I took out my phone. "Let's take a picture," I said, Chloe. Proof of a job well done. We took a few shots of the shining flooring and neatly placed furnishings. It was a small token of our efforts, a fitting conclusion to an exquisite evening. We locked the door behind us, fatigued yet tremendously joyful. I drifted through the next morning on a cloud of bliss, replaying my mother's cheerful face in my mind. I was sitting at my desk, sipping coffee and going through images, when an email notification appeared. Caroline Vance sent the email with the subject line, "Regarding your rental of the Gilded Lily Loft." I smiled, expecting a courteous, "I hope you had a great time," or even a request for a 5-star review. I opened it, my smile evaporated, my blood became chilly. The email was a slew of angry words. It was forceful and accusing. Words like appalled, disgusted, and utter disrespect stood out to me. She claimed we had left the facility in a deplorable and unusable state. She accused us of breaching our contract and suffering her severe financial and reputational harm. Finally, there was the gut hit. An invoice for $200 was sent for a mandatory deep cleaning and sanitation fee, $1,200. My initial reaction was just confusion. It had to be a mistake. She must have sent this to the incorrect recipient. I went down, hoping for clarification, and saw her attachments. There were 3 photographs. They were fuzzy, shot up close with a flash that wiped everything out. One showed what appeared to be a small, dark smudge on the floorboards. Another displayed a single wine cork beneath a radiator. The third was a photo of a trash bag resting near to enormous bins outside. It was not one of our bags. This was not an error. This was a shakedown. It felt like a physical blow. This woman was attempting to extort money from me, but it was much more than that. This was a betrayal. We had a contract. We shook hands on the basis of mutual trust, company to consumer. She had just slammed a sledgehammer into that foundation. Worse, she was tainting the memory of my mother's lovely night. She was tarnishing our lovely, passionate celebration with trash, accusing us of being unclean and disrespectful. She was undermining my integrity, my character. She called me a liar. I responded immediately, keeping my tone as level and professional as possible. I mentioned that we had thoroughly cleaned the location and that there must be some misunderstanding. "I've attached the crystal clear images clue, and I took of the clean loft right before we departed." I pointed out that her images were confusing, and the garbage bag in her picture was not ours. I was firm, but polite. I was giving her the benefit of the doubt, an opportunity to fix her mistake. She responded within 10 minutes. It was one sentence. "The photographs speak for themselves. The amount is non-negotiable and has already been applied to your security deposit." The audacity was amazing. She was more than just a fraudster. She was a proud one. Okay, I thought. Fine. There are systems for this. There are procedures. I immediately went to the booking platform's website and initiated a formal dispute. I described the entire event, provided my picture evidence, and included the email exchange with Caroline. I was convinced that any neutral party would identify this as apparent fraud. The platform was my safety net. It was intended to safeguard users from hosts like her. I spent the next few days in a condition of anxiety and tension. I was continuously checking my emails. I attempted to work, but my mind kept reliving the injustice of the situation. The $200 was a large sum for me. It was a month's rent and a major portion of my savings. But the concept of the affair was eating me alive. I couldn't take the thought of this woman getting away with it. 3 days later, an email from the booking platform arrived. My pulse raced as I clicked it open. It was short, antiseptic, and completely terrible. Dear Liam Evans, we have completed our investigation after thoroughly reviewing the case you and the host, Caroline Vance, provided. We have chosen to maintain the cleaning fee levy. The decision is final. The case is now closed. An automated and lifeless reaction. A digital shrug. The system had failed. The safety net had broken. There was no appeal and no one else to speak to. Simply a cold, hard proclamation that, in the eyes of the world that counted, I was in the wrong. Caroline had won. That night, sleep was a distant nation for which I could not obtain a visa. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the injustice of it all churning through my stomach like acid. It was a sense of full and utter powerlessness. I had followed the regulations. I was honest. I had evidence. None of it mattered. I was just another anonymous user, a case number that could easily be dismissed. Caroline had all the cards. She had my money and the platform's blessing. I was just a victim. However, as the hours passed and the moon traced its leisurely route across my bedroom window, my sense of powerlessness began to fade. It slowly, steadily hardened into something else. Something chilly, sharp, and heavy. It was rage. Pure, clear fury. I wasn't the victim. The victims accept their fate. Victims weep, then move on. I was not going to move on. I climbed out of bed, the floorboards chilly beneath my feet, and strolled over to my desk. In the darkened room, the illumination from my laptop screen illuminated my face. I retrieved Caroline's invoice. $200. I glanced at that figure and understood my goal had shifted. It was no longer about getting my money back. I knew it was a losing cause. If I did manage to claw it back, she would simply do it to someone else the following week and the week after that. The problem was not $200. The trouble was Caroline. Her entire business was based on a lie. A well-crafted picture of perfection and professionalism. A 4.9-star rating. That rating was her lifeblood. It was her currency. It was the wellspring of her strength. And I was about to take it away from her. I did not say it aloud. I did not have to. The commitment was made silently, under the monitor's sterile blue light. My fingers moved across the keyboard, and my knuckles tightened. I launched a new browser tab, and then another. Yelp, Google Maps, the booking platform, Facebook, every digital outpost where the Gilded Lily Loft existed. Did she want a deep cleaning? Fine. I was ready to begin the deepest cleaning she had ever seen. I was going to rid the internet of her excellent reputation. I planned to destroy her most important asset, her reputation. The quest has started. The first few days were a whirl of intense investigation. I became an expert on scorched earth methods. I read papers about search engine optimization, the psychology of online reviews, and how to write a narrative that was both interesting and, most importantly, credible. I discovered that raw, unrestrained fury is rejected as the ravings of a crazy. The most powerful negative reviews are calm, precise, and surgical. They provide a rational, evidence-based argument that leaves no space for dispute. This was my universe. I was a designer. I understood aesthetics, presentation, and user experience. I would plan her downfall. My first review was a masterful display of controlled rage. I initially submitted it on the booking site, which was the scene of the original crime. I told the incident from the start, the delight of my mother's celebration, the thorough cleanup, and the unexpected, false charge. I used phrases like deeply disappointed and breach of trust instead of thieving scammer. I attached my photos, the bright, clear shots of the pristine loft, and placed them side by side with her blurry, incriminating evidence. I ended with a quiet warning to future renters. Please be cautious and document everything. I wouldn't want this kind of experience to ruin another family's great event. I gave it 1 star. Then I pasted my epic opus into Google, Yelp, and every other review site I could find. I sat back, my heart racing with a mix of exhilaration and fear. The first shot was fired. Caroline took less than 24 hours to answer. Her response was a public display of uncontrollable wrath. It was everything my review was not: passionate, unprofessional, and full of exclamation marks. TT is a complaini fabricaton by a parablem client trying to smire my goad nammy. She wrote, "This renter left my property in deplorable condition, and now he's throwing a fit because he was held accountable. We've got photographic proof. Don't T Bill VCCLES." Reading her frenzied, all caps answer was the first time I felt a genuine spark of pleasure from this entire fiasco. She was revealing her true colors. She was validating my story. But my satisfaction was fleeting. A day later, my booking platform review had deleted. Then there's one on Yelp. I received automatic emails informing me that my postings had been marked and removed for violating community guidelines. Caroline was working the system, denouncing my reviews as phony and harassing. She knew the game better than I did. It was a momentary setback, but it taught me an important lesson. I couldn't do it alone. My transition from a mild-mannered designer to a vengeful keyboard warrior did not go unnoticed. The preoccupation began to permeate the rest of my existence. I was distracted at work, missing deadlines on client assignments because I was too busy reviewing review pages or contemplating novel approaches to problems. The moral lines began to blur. I generated a few false email accounts. John P., Sarah K., and David M. and used them to upvote my remaining review on Google, increasing its prominence. I add minor notes of agreement like, "Wow, that's bad. Thank you for the warning." Each click felt like a minor concession, a tiny chip away at the very integrity I was meant to be fighting for. Was I pursuing justice, or was I simply becoming an online bully? The question briefly crossed my mind, but I quickly dismissed it. The aims justify the means. Chloe, my sister and party planning partner, became my conscience. She noticed the gloomy, obsessed cloud growing over me. "Liam, let it go." She begged me over coffee one afternoon. She appeared really scared. "At $200. I know it's bad and unfair, but is it really worth it? You appear wary. You are not yourself. It's not about the money anymore, Clue." I murmured, my voice tight. "It is about the principle. She cannot just get away with this." "But what is the endgame here? Have you ruined her business?" "Then what? Will that help you feel better? Just consider it a costly lesson and move on with your life." Her words stung because I knew she was partially correct. This crusade was engulfing me. My relationship with her, which had once been easy and full of humor, was now strained as we focused on this single, dismal subject. But I was unable to stop. It felt like if I stopped, Caroline would win, and the wrong would be permanent. My breakthrough came from an unexpected source. In the comments area of my last Google review, a fresh comment came. It wasn't from any of my sock puppet accounts. It came from a user entitled Justice for Enters. The comment read, "I had the same experience with this host 6 months ago. They charged me $800 for scratches on the floor that were present when I arrived. I fought and lost. She is a professional scammer. I've got emails to prove it. We should talk." My fingers moved quickly across the keyboard. "I've sent a private message." Justice for Enters was Maya Desai, a young corporate lawyer who rented the loft for a friend's baby shower. She was bright, intelligent, and just as outraged as I was. She'd been duped, just like me, and had the receipts to prove it. But as a busy lawyer, she didn't have the time or energy to follow it beyond the initial unsuccessful dispute. She preys on people who are emotionally invested in their events. Maya revealed during our initial phone conversation. She understands you're celebrating something special and is less inclined to fight back and spoil the memories. It is a calculated, predatory business model. Talking to Maya felt like a rush of relief. I was not crazy. I was not alone. She gave me a strategy as well as validation. She described the legal gray areas of internet reviews and defamation, and she advised me on how to word things so that they were as harmful as possible while remaining legally sound. She had an idea. "There are more of us out there," she continued, her voice full of new enthusiasm. "We just need a place to find each other." We worked together to build a private Facebook group and a subreddit. We called it The Gilded Lily Victims, And Maya and I started it with our own experiences, proof, and email chains with Caroline. Then we began searching. We scanned the internet for any bad or neutral comments on the apartment. We messaged those who had given 3-star ratings, complaining about Caroline's attitude. People began to arrive slowly and carefully. A man was charged $500 for a broken chair. A lady has been accused of stealing beautiful towels. The stories varied slightly, but the pattern was consistent: a beautiful moment followed by a false, outrageous bill. We had a dozen members inside a week. Our little support group swiftly developed into a war council. Our aim was Caroline Vance. She was not a one-dimensional wicked villain. As we went deeper into her social media, we saw a lady desperate to present the impression of effortless success. Her Instagram profile was tailored, featuring luxurious vacations, designer purses, and, of course, effusive 5-star reviews of her loft, which she screenshotted and posted with captions like, "So blessed to have the best clients." She was just as concerned with her reputation as I had become. She built hers on lies and intimidation, whereas I built mine on precise truth. Her pride, her urgent desire for 5-star approval, was her worst flaw. We were about to use it as a weapon against her. Our new campaign was coordinated. We created a schedule. Every day, at a set time, a separate member of our group would leave their own 1-star rating on a different platform. Each review was distinct, conveying their own tale, but they all linked back to our Reddit post, forming a common point of evidence. The effect was instantaneous and terrible. The Gilded Lily Loft's flawless 4.9-star rating began to plummet. It has decreased to 4.2, then 35, then 2.8. Caroline's wild, all-caps comments got increasingly deranged. She accused us of being a hate group, organized by a competitive venue. She was sliding, and her public meltdowns just added credibility to our calm, objective reports. But our campaign had unexpected repercussions. One day, a young woman in panic posted on our Reddit thread. She and her fiancé had reserved the loft for their little 30-person wedding in 2 months. That was all they could afford. They had seen the recent wave of nasty reviews and were afraid. They had previously made a non-refundable deposit of $2,000. They were stranded. Reading her desperate post brought a surge of remorse over me. This couple, these innocent bystanders, became caught in the crossfire of my struggle. I was battling an injustice, but I was causing significant distress for others in the process. I messaged the woman personally, told her our tale, and offered to help them find a new location if things went wrong. It was a minor gesture, yet it seemed significant. The lines of this battle were becoming tangled. A local Austin food and lifestyle blogger provided the tipping point, escalating the argument from a skirmish to a full-fledged public spectacle. His name was Ben Carter, and he ran a popular blog called Austin Eats. A year ago, he wrote a fawning profile on the Gilded Lily Loft, calling it one of the city's hidden gems. One of our group members remembered the story and sent him an anonymous tip with a link to our Reddit thread. Apparently, Ben's journalistic curiosity was sparked. He spent a week researching, contacting members of our organization, and even posing a bogus question to Caroline to assess her business methods. Then, on Tuesday morning, the article appeared. The headline was shocking. The Gilded Lily's Gilded Fire Day, popular Austin venue accused of cleaning fee, scam by dozens of former clients. The news quickly spread throughout Austin's neighborhood. It has been shared hundreds of times on Facebook. The comment section was a carnage. The conflict was no longer being fought in the shadows of review sections, but in the open, under the spotlight. The booking platform that had previously dismissed my case began to pay attention. Caroline, who had been on the offensive, was now in full panic mode, urgently trying to contain the damage. She began deleting critical comments from her social media, which just made her appear more guilty. The power dynamic has irrevocably changed. With Caroline on the defensive, Maya and I felt it was time to take advantage. We knew we could demolish her business from the inside out. We discovered through some web research that Caroline had a lucrative association with a high-end local event planning company, Elegant Affairs, which routinely suggested her apartment to its wealthy clientele. This collaboration was most certainly a significant source of her income and, more significantly, her status. The plan was straightforward and surgical. I wrote a courteous, worried email to the proprietor of Elegant Affairs. "I'm not sure if you're aware of this," I wrote, "but as a fan of your company's impeccable reputation, I thought you should see the recent reporting on one of your partner venues." I attached a link to Ben Carter's blog article. I did not make any allegations. I simply sowed a seed of skepticism. 2 days later, the partners section of Elegant Affairs website was changed. The Gilded Lily Loft was no longer listed. We'd severed one of her major arteries. Caroline grew extremely paranoid. We found out from a new member of our group, a caterer who had handled an event at the loft, that she had begun accusing her own employees of leaking information to the press. She was isolating herself and trusting no one. The castle she had constructed on falsehoods was crumbling from inside. Just when I thought she was going to give up, she made her final, desperate move. A large manila envelope appeared in my mailbox. Inside was a cease and desist letter from a prominent law firm, charging me of slander, libel, and tortious interference. It threatened a lawsuit that would undoubtedly bankrupt me for the rest of my life. The legal lingo was intimidating. The letterhead appeared menacing. For the first time, I experienced a tremble of genuine terror. Clue discovered me reading it in my kitchen, my face pale. "Are they going to sue you? Liam, this has gone too far," she pleaded, her eyes wide with fear. "You should stop. Simply quit. It is not worth it. Please." Her terror was contagious. Doubt started to seep in. Did I push too hard? Was I ready to lose everything for a question of principle? I was backed into a corner, my righteous rage now seeming like a dangerous liability. I was a graphic designer, not a litigator. The night seemed darker than ever before. Then an email arrived, which changed everything. It came from the booking platform. They had read the blog article and the number of complaints, and their legal team was obviously concerned about their own liability. They had scheduled an obligatory 3-way video mediation call between myself, Caroline, and a senior case manager from their trust and safety department. This was it, the final showdown, the trial I never imagined I'd get. The day of the call, I sat at my desk, my heart pounding against my ribcage. Maya was on the phone with me, taking me through the final preparations. "Just stick to the facts, Liam," she said. "Don't become emotional. Let her hang herself with her own lies." When the video call connected, Caroline's face showed in a box on my screen. She appeared poised, almost arrogant, seated in what appeared to be a home office, with a painting of a lily hanging on the wall behind her. Miss Albright, the case manager, set down the ground rules. I went first. I quietly stated my argument, as Maya had recommended. I led Ms. Albright through the timeline, sharing my screen to show her the images, emails, and invoices. I remained professional, factual, and reserved. Then Caroline's turn. She launched into an Oscar-worthy performance. She portrayed me as a disappointed and vindictive client. She claimed my images were shot at a different time and that her own fuzzy photos were accurate. She insisted that the additional trash bag contained shattered bottles we had hidden. Lie after lie, delivered with the practiced ease of an experienced professional. She was so compelling that I almost doubted myself. Ms. Albright listened carefully, her expression unreadable. Amiss when Caroline had concluded her diatribe, she added, "Vance, that is a very serious accusation. Do you have any further proof to back up your claim?" "It is my word against his," Caroline responded defiantly, tossing her head. And my track record as a 5-star host speaks for itself. I could see the case balancing on a knife's edge. "It was just," she said. And then Maya texted me. "Now." I took a deep breath. "Ms. Albright," I answered, my voice steady. "Actually, it's not only my word. Someone else can speak about Ms. Vance's business practices." Caroline's smug look faded, replaced with a glimmer of confusion. I gazed immediately at my webcam. Maya, could you please join the call and bring our witness? A new window opened in the video conference. It was Maya, and next to her was a young man in a worn-out shirt who appeared apprehensive but determined. I recognized him immediately. He was the young man in the backdrop of a shot on the Gilded Lily Loft's Instagram page. A part-time cleaner she occasionally employed for rapid turnarounds. Chekhov's gun had just appeared on screen. Caroline's face turned white. She appeared as if she had witnessed a ghost. "This is Marco," Maya replied quietly. "He worked for Ms. Vance part-time for more than a year. Marco, could you please inform Is Albright about the deep cleaning policy at the Gilded Lily Loft?" Marco, his voice wavering slightly at first, began speaking. He recounted Caroline's regular practice of fabricating cleaning fees, particularly for clients who appeared young or unskilled. He said she referred to it as her bonus fund. He had always felt horrible about it, but he needed the job. "This is a lie!" Caroline screamed, her serenity shattered. "He is a disgruntled former employee. I dismissed him because he was lazy. Is that true?" Maya spoke smoothly. "Then perhaps you can explain these." Maya shared her screen, and there they were. Caroline and Marco exchanged several text messages. Caroline, "Did the clients on Saturday leave a mess?" Marco, "No, it was pretty clean. Just the usual." Caroline says, "I'll find something. A scuff mark, a wine stain, or anything. I need to charge them for a thorough cleaning." Marco said, "I can't really see anything major." Caroline, "Then take a blurry photo of something small. Apply the smudge at the west window. Place one of the additional garbage bags next to the containers. I need to make it seem good. There's an extra $50 for you." Everything was there, in black and white, a signed confession. The call was deafeningly silent. Caroline simply gazed at the TV, her mouth hanging open. The mask was gone. The lies had disappeared. All that remained was the harsh, selfish truth. The entire conflict, which had lasted weeks, was won in a single silent instant. Miss Albright cleared her throat. "Thank you, Maya and Marco. That will be all." Her voice sounded icy. She shifted her focus to Caroline, whose box on the screen was a frozen image of sheer, unadulterated horror. "Mrs. Vance, we will repay Mr. Evans in full, as well as 12 additional individuals whose cases we are now reopening. Furthermore, your account and all listings on our platform will be permanently stopped starting immediately." The call has ended. I simply sat there, staring at my blank screen. It was over. I'd won. An hour later, I received an email verifying my $200 return. It felt anticlimactic. The number that had fueled my fury and worry was now simply a number. Caroline saw a rapid fallout over the next few days. Her business began to unravel after losing the platform that gave it respectability. Her website, previously a pristine testimony to her success, quickly showed a desperate-looking bannering. 50% OFALL direct Boken GS. It smelled like decay. However, the triumph did not feel like a victory. I'd spent weeks driven by adrenaline and a strong sense of purpose. After the struggle, all that remained was a calm, unfathomable void. The purpose that had dominated my every waking thought had vanished. I was just exhausted, bone-tired. I looked at how much the conflict had cost me. I'd neglected my work. My relationship with Chloe was tight. We were courteous, but the casual warmth had faded, replaced by a cautious distancing. To succeed, I had to become a version of myself that I didn't particularly like: obsessive, conspiratorial, and little brutal. I had won, but I was unsure whether it was worthwhile. A few days later, I was sitting with my mother in her yard. I had told her the entire tale from start to finish. She listened intently, a slight smile on her face. "I'm proud of you, Liam," she remarked after I finished. Proud of me? Mom, I've become an obsessed online troll." "No," she replied, reaching over and taking my hand. "You stood up for yourself. You stood up for what was correct. That's something I'm proud of. You're fought, not won." Her comments were a balm for a wound I hadn't realized was so deep. Later that day, I received a text message. It came from the young woman whose wedding was in peril. They had secured a new venue, and the wedding was back on track. "We wanted to say thank you," she wrote. "You probably spared us from being duped too. We'd love for you to attend the wedding as our guest." Something inside of me altered as I read that message. Perhaps the purpose was not my victory over Caroline. Perhaps the purpose was what happened next. That evening, I was browsing the local Austin subreddit. I noticed a new post. The header read, "Has anyone else had problems with XY's apartment complex demanding fraudulent move-out fees?" The post was from a college student who sounded overwhelmed and powerless as he described a very familiar situation. I paused. My fingers hovered above the keyboard. The old Liam would have scrolled by, thinking, "That's a shame," and continued on. But I wasn't the same Liam anymore. I took a deep breath, nodded gently to myself, and then started typing. "I believe you," I responded. "I experienced something similar. This is what you do." The conflict was over, but I understood my new purpose had only just begun. The true success was not in bringing someone down. It was in using what I'd learned from my own dark path to aid someone else, to be the person with the map who could lead them out of the woods. After all, I had become part of the cleanup team, just not the kind I expected to be.